in studio. And a lot of times it's talked about with hockey. Martin Collegiate, Kim Perepeluk's joining us, and Mark Harrmann. Guys, thanks so much for making some time coming down today and talking about Martin. And first off, Mark, to you, you haven't been in and around, you said about a year and a half.
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years in Regina with the division. When you look at Martin and you come in here and what they're doing there, obviously, I just experienced for the first time this year. Yeah. I think it's amazing what it is, what it's doing. Again, more than just for hockey players. But you've been around, seen this model elsewhere. You come into Martin. Is this one of the best ones you've seen?
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's 35 years in public education. Most of it in Ontario, obviously almost the last 2 years here in Saskatchewan. But yeah, very impressive program. I have the advantage myself of being a former player myself, 1985 NHL draft pick, Washington Capitals. So a little bit of a background in sports. So I always get excited about this kind of programming because when I would have played in the OHL, there was no supports like this. Midget hockey in Ontario, no supports like this. 3 daughters as well, one of who's played soccer for Canada. So again, no supports in Ontario, no programs like this. So when I came to Martin the first time, I was almost somewhat dumbfounded. I think the variety of supports for excellence both in sports and in academics, the way in which there is sort of a place or an entry point for so many kids at so many different levels, it's a very positive thing. To the point now where as Director of Education with this division, I'm looking beyond sports. I'm beginning to think that there's opportunities in the arts and drama and dance. Certainly conversations Kim and I have had and we've had with our Board of Trustees. So I think the excellence is obviously there in sports and academics, but I think it could go beyond. I think it's a model that works because it doesn't cost taxpayers much. We take sort of the public funding we get. Kids get credits, and whether they're doing it at Sheldon, Collegiate in a gym class, or they're doing it, at the Martin Academy through baseball, same funding happens. It's just a way to sort of give kids opportunities, pathways that are very different and very exciting. So, as you can tell, I'm a big supporter.
It must warm your heart, make you feel good, maybe peacock around a bit, Kim, because you've kind of been with this thing, right? Like you've seen it. How many total years is it now for Martin?
We're just finishing our 12th year.
Yeah, and when you started it, obviously you want to look down the road and be like, okay, we want to be here, we want to do this. But then there's a lot of times that things don't work out that way. Right. You got to be extremely happy with where it stands here in 2026.
Well, I think looking back on it, it really was a bit of a leap of faith when we approached it, starting in Regina in the fall of 2014. I think one of the things I attribute to success, whether it's athletic or academic, has been our staff. I think we were very fortunate to be surrounded by some really good educators, good role models in our community, and I think that's been a big part of the success we've had.
One thing, and obviously being associated with the hockey side, but beyond like this, the academy, the baseball, and then the high performance athletes. Like, how do you explain that to people and people that are listening? Because this is way more than just kids in hockey going to the school. Right.
I always think that our premier performance athletes seem to humble the majority of athletes in our building. There's so many to mention. I know Mackenzie Chamberlain was one of our dancers who was part of the Cirque du Soleil program in Vegas, which was really, really a neat story. Molly Lakustiak is at Arizona State on the track and field team. So it goes on and on and on. Thomas Ireland was a Texas Ranger draft pick out of our baseball group, and not to mention, or not to miss anyone, our softball academy sends a lot of really neat student athletes down south. So yeah, it's a neat way to go to high school, and I think when I look at our attendance at the end of the year in high school, it's high. It's very successful. I think that makes for a neat way, to balance busy sport and academics.
Mark, realistically, like you said, you want to look at other avenues and where this can go. Realistically, is there a timeline for everything?
Well, I think for us, that's something we're going to begin looking at very seriously next year. I mean, we need someone to sort of step up and coordinate this work for us. And again, I think it's one of the things that I've sort of come to see at the Martin Academy is sort of the success will not just work for athletics, I think it can work in other areas. So I think that's something we've begun to sort of take baby steps and explore explore this winter into the spring. I think next year we're going to be moving ahead fairly aggressively to find some partners, and certainly to see what sort of staff we have and what kind of interest there is in the community. But our sort of early forays into trying to figure out who might be interested have been very positive. So I think there's some great opportunities there. And again, I think whether you're pursuing excellence in music, excellence in the arts, excellence in hockey, it really is about the same type of student, trying to take that student at the high school level and develop into something into bigger and better, and an opportunity to go beyond Regina and really leave their mark in the world, whether it's through sports, academics, leadership, etc., because it's all about educating the whole child.
When you guys were kind of going back and building this thing up, I'm sure you were leaning on or looking at other schools in different places and taking all that. And I'm sure now a lot are doing that with you guys and saying, how was this successful? I know my sister was talking about changes that's coming in Saskatoon and all that. On both sides of that, who did you guys lean on? Like maybe who helped you along the way? And then now who are you kind of sharing your model with?
Well, I was pretty fortunate. I spent 9 years over in Europe. And I think that one of the things that we find in European club settings is developmental models. So, and they do seem to create efficiency with their schools as well as, with their sports. So I think probably bringing a little bit of, they say a good coach or a good player always begs, borrows, and steals. So
yes,
I think I was able
and musician.
And musicians, no kidding. So so I think a few ideas behind creating life balance for these kids was our approach. Rob Sharpushchuk as well was very integral in the onset and continued excellence with the program. We did make a trip up to Edmonton, would have been in our initial years, to Vimy Ridge, which is a large public high school in the city. And I would say they would be one of the schools that certainly reached out and gave us not only the academic platform to make this work during the day, but all their different sports. And it's been one of those programs that evolves as you went. We started building the airplane as we were flying a few years ago, and now I think the support of families drives itself.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you visited Birchmount Collegiate in Toronto as well, or at least Rob might have.
Okay.
And I know that there's a gentleman, Teddy Tmertzoglu, a former a U of T person that I knew quite well. And so I know that academy in Toronto fairly well. So when I came here, I was a little bit blown away by what Martin has done. It's sort of taken that base and built it into something that is, again, starting in grade 7 with opportunities for kids to experience the academy, really into what I think is an elite program. And I struggle to think of whether there would be one better in this country.
Again, being immersed in it now and seeing what it's all about. And it's not, I think, we look at athletics for sure. And if it does go into the arts and dance and music and all that, that's perfect. But I see it at home, the balance that the kids get. And I remember myself as an inner city kid going to high school, like where it was a different world almost. So a lot of kids are intimidated going to high school. That was one of the things. And it's not the same for everybody, but you're with like-minded athletes, kids, individuals.
Right. And I think the nice schedules that we've been able to set up for these students has been a balance between two of them with their academy, whether it's baseball, softball, or hockey, but the rest of the day is blended amongst all the other students at Martin. So I think it makes for a neat way to go to school. I think we create a transparency between parents, guardians, the student, and the school, and for a lot of these players that are aspiring, in regardless of their sport, I really think it allows them to reach the highest level they'd like to.
Anything that we're missing on your end, Mark?
No, I think the whole notion of being a student athlete is tough. Right? I think being a high-level performer, musician, etc., athlete, it's hard. And particularly for teenagers, takes a lot of time. There's supports needed academically, supports needed in terms of training, in terms of nutrition, even just downtime for kids to rest and be kind of normal for a bit. And I think the beauty of the academy model is it manages to wrap around the student in an entire way and support that going forward. So again, I just see it as such a positive. And being new to the system, I'm excited by the opportunities that it allows our system and really for the kids kids of Regina. It's a great place for a young person to be.
Okay, so while I got you guys here, we got to talk some hockey because that's just what we're going to do. Okay. You said 1985 draft.
Yeah.
Mark Harrmann. Are you a Leafs guy then?
I'm a Leafs guy. I hate to admit it.
What do you think about that last night then, when no one does anything, when Austin Matthews? I know you maybe have to toe the line here a bit, but
well, no, for me, I think this Leafs season has been incredibly disappointing. It's funny. I would have watched last year's playoff loss, thinking they're a player away, and of course then the Marner thing happens, and I remember being kind of nervous, thinking that Marner's the guy that sets the table for Austin Matthews, and we've seen that, right? Matthews is not the same guy without Marner, and the team isn't the same either. And I didn't think one guy would have that impact. But I also wonder, now, I come from a time where up and down hockey and physicality was a thing, but I'm not sure Berube's plan around that is working particularly well in 2026, because the wheeler dealers have taken over, and the muckers and grinders like myself, they're not having the success they once did, and that Leaf team looks slow and outplayed on most nights.
1985 NHL draft, 8th round by the Washington Capitals. Do you know, I'll ask you, do you know who went first that year, Kim?
Oh, Saskatchewan boy, hint.
Wendell
Clark. We had someone text us a little while ago about what would Wendell have done. Brent Fedek, another local guy as well. Davey Manson from up north in the first round. So that 85 draft was going to Sean Burke in net for New Jersey. One thing I want to ask you, Kim, is we watched the success that the Pat Canadians are having, national champions last year. You won a national championship with this organization. Obviously, still a fan, still rooting. It's special what they do here with the Pat season. You have the head coach at the school.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really neat to see the success. I think one of the things that I don't know if anybody or everybody really notices just how much work Ryan Hodgins puts, behind the scenes and at lunch and after school and the video and everything. I mean, it's one thing to have the team at the high school, but at the same time, I think it's nice to have some separation from your coach. So I think we do a pretty good job to balance that for the kids. But I really think that we remind ourselves they're just kids. But it's a real exciting team with a real exciting future here in the next little while. And I think the fact that we're hosting is exciting for the city. I think they've got as good a shot as anybody to repeat.
Could you imagine bleaching your hair back in the day like they're doing nowadays?
Yeah, I did. Did you? So, gosh. So they better be careful, those kids, after bleaching. But I don't have any left. But it's a neat time of the year. What I like, when I go to the games, is just to see almost our entire high school there cheering the kids on, and they're all blended amongst the schools and ages and everything and levels, and it's just like I said, it's exciting to be part of it.
Yeah, and the bleaching would be the only concern I have with the program. That's about all I have. A little old school, 1985. That's the only concern I have.
I remember we used to, you get the hazing, you get your head shaved.
I went through that with the Oshawa Generals. I know that very well.
Yeah. Oh man, this is fun, guys. I think it's really cool what you guys have going on there. Then just that brand, right? That M kind of means something, and you see it, and it's like any high school. I see it at Riffle, see it at down at Miller, as well. But that M and the Martin and the Academy, and then it is when parents and people start to hear, well, it's a high school and they have these programs within, and it's way more than hockey. Your kid is good at swimming or dance or the Cirque du Soleil thing. I remember you talking about that last year. Do you know what it was in Vegas that they were?
I can't recall. No, I think she had a 2-term. I think it was about 16 weeks she was there.
Yeah,
so
that's amazing
really
stuff.
Experience, you bet.
That's crazy. Yeah. Mark and Kim, thanks so much for coming in today.
Barney, thank you very much. Always a pleasure, and always a pleasure to talk about public education, Regina Public Schools, and Martin Academy in particular.
And the 1985 draft.
Absolutely. That was fun too.
It's a Sports Cage, streaming through our YouTube channel at sportscage.com.